Good morning, Year 7. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. So I'm really excited. This is the first lesson, which is going to be a full lesson rather than me just introducing the do now and having an audiobook. So a bit more talking from me. Not sure how you feel about that, either pleased or not so pleased. Hopefully it's the former. So attached on class charts, you've got your do now activity. So you've got a list of events and you need to put them in order. So please do download the activity from class charts, either print it out or you can do it online if you don't have a printer, and then put numbers, please, next to each of the events so that they're in order. Pause the video, please, for about 5 minutes to do that now. Okay, so these are your answers. Please could you read through the events on the screen and make sure you've got them in the right order. So if you haven't got them in the right order, please can you amend what you've got written down. Okay, so your title today is Analysing the Riverbank. Please could you also write the date. Okay, so what do we know about the mole from the first few pages of the novel? Please could you reread from pages 1 to page 4 to the insatiable sea. I want you to consider, what is he like? What was he doing at the start of the book? What does he make of the river? What does he think of it? And why might he be so bewitched, entranced, and fascinated by it? Pause the video, please, for about 5 minutes to do this now. So we know he's exhausted from a morning of hard work. He abandons his work midway through, suggesting he doesn't always think things through as he leaves without his coat. He feels called to the surface, almost like he can sense an adventure ahead. He is very excited to have escaped his work. He is rude to the rabbits. He is amazed when he sees the river, as he's never seen one before. So please do make sure you've made a note of what's on the slide. Okay, so let's look at the riverbank now. Please listen as I reread the description and think about how the river is described. He thought his happiness was complete when, as he meandered aimlessly along, suddenly he stopped by the edge of a full-fed river. Never in his life has he seen a river before. This sleek, sinuous, full-bodied animal, chasing and chuckling, gripping things with a gurgle, and leaving them with a laugh to fling itself on fresh playmates that shook themselves free and were caught and held again. All was a shake and a shiver, glints and gleams and sparkles, rustles and swirl, chatter and bubble. The mole was bewitched, entranced, fascinated. By the side of the river he trotted as one trots, when very small, by the side of a man who holds one spellbound by exciting stories, and when tired at last he sat on the bank, while the river still chattered on to him, a babbling procession of the best stories in the world, sent from the heart of the earth to be told at last to the insatiable sea. We're going to analyse how the river is presented, so a quick reminder of how to analyse. This question requires us to practice our analytical skills. This means we need to be able to select quotations to explore, apply relevant literary terminology, explore the effect of individual word choices, one-word analysis, and consider both language and structure. In terms of structural devices, you may consider how the mood or atmosphere changes in viewpoint or perspective, changes in setting or time. You might look at how the writer has used paragraphs to guide the reader through the text. You may consider contrast, sentence lengths and the impact these have, listing and repetition. In terms of language devices, please look out for similes, metaphors, personification, verbs, adjectives, alliteration, and adverbs. I would actually like you to make a note of structure devices, please, and language devices in your book. If you feel ready, please reread the extract and start to annotate on it, considering how the river is being presented. Pause the video to do that now. So, a quotation explosion, a model of how to annotate. All was a shake and a shiver, glints and gleams and sparkles, rustles and swell, chatter and bubble. So we've got the listing of many verbs showing the river as incredibly active, a real sense of movement that draws the eye of the mole. He is understandably captivated. So you've got glints and gleams, the use of alliteration emphasizing the eye-catching nature of the river's movement. Sparkles. The reference to gleams and sparkles suggests light is reflected off the river. It's a dazzling thing to behold. The verb chatter focuses on action and noise. We can imagine the sound of the river as a constant. Chatter is also personification. It makes the river feel alive. What I'd like to do now is pick 2 quotations of your own to explore in detail with the quotation explosion, like the one I've shown you here. So pause the video to do that now. So now you've annotated your extract and picked out a few key quotations to explore in detail, we should now be ready to have a go at answering an exam-style question. How is the river presented in this description? The next 2 slides will give you some tips as to how you might write your answer. So how to make a point and use evidence. 1. Writer's name. For example, Blake, Shakespeare, Browning, Golding, Duffy. 2. Writing a verb. Presents, create, describes, portrays, suggests, implies, illustrates. 3. Your point. Browning describes the Duke as obsessive. 4, 5 quotation. In single quotation marks. Keep it short, 6 words or fewer, punctuation inside the quotation marks. So an example, Blake suggests that the people in London are miserable, marks of woe. Please use this structure to help you answer the question on how the riverbank is presented. Here are some examples. Graham portrays the river as alive, this sleek, sinuous, full-bodied animal. Graham creates an impression of the river as magical, bewitched, entranced, fascinated. Pause the video, please, to do this now. The next stage is then to explore the effect of their evidence using terminology and one-word analysis. Graham portrays the river as alive, this sleek, sinuous, full-bodied animal. He uses metaphor and carefully chosen adjectives such as sleek to give the river qualities of an animal that moves gracefully. Graham creates an impression of the river as magical, bewitched, entranced, fascinated. This listing suggests the mole is under the river's spell and cannot escape the trance it has him under. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is write out your final answer as to how the river is presented in the description. So spend 10 minutes making sure you've got a perfect answer to this question. And please make sure you've uploaded it to ClassCharts so I can see the wonderful work that you've produced this lesson. So please pause the video to do that now. And that brings us to the end of today's lesson. I hope you found it interesting and enjoyable. The riverbank description is one of the most beautiful passages, I think, in The Wind in the Willows. It's such a powerful, evocative description, so I really hope you enjoyed analysing it, and I look forward to speaking to you again next lesson.